Goodbye, mohair. I bought the... Hello and welcome back to Little Mitch Stitches. I am Stephanie and I am coming to you from Long Island, New York today. And it is a nice overcast day. It is very bright out, but it is not raining or snowing. We might be getting snow this week. Might be our first one for the season. Thank you for joining me. If you are coming back, thank you for coming back. Welcome if you are new. I can't wait to talk about all of my projects with you and some stashing that I might have done this week. Before I talk about the only project I finished this week, I want to show you my sweater of this week. This is my Affinity cardigan. There's also a pullover version. I don't know how it's quite named. It is Affinity by Patty Lyons, and there is an adult set of sizes for pullover and cardigan, as well as a children's set. Someday I would love to knit these sweaters for each one of us in my family. I have 2 little boys and my husband, but I've only knit one for myself so far. I don't think my husband quite wants one. It's not necessarily, a cardigan's not really his thing. So maybe a pullover for him, and the cardigans for the boys could be good. But I knit this, oh my gosh, I can't even remember now. 2 years ago? 1 year ago? It took me a long time to knit. I'd pick it up and put it down. It is knit in pieces and seamed together. It has a saddle shoulder, which looks so nice. And it has really cool pockets. Let's get up and see. The pockets are integrated right into the pattern. And it's really comfy cozy. The yarn is mystery yarn I had that I over dyed. So this was one of my throw stuff in a pot and we'll see what comes out. And I just totally lucked out with this amazing, like, I don't even know what color to call it because it depends on the lighting. Sometimes it looks more blue, sometimes it looks more green. Right now it's looking very green to my eyes, but you can see splashes of colors. The original color was yellows and blues. I can't remember if they overlapped at all and made any greens underneath, but then I threw some sort of blue dye on top of it and got this really cool green, teal sometimes color. But I love knitting cables, and this has some fun, not really too complicated, but not beginner really cables. And then the back has a ton of cables. So like I said, this sweater was done in pieces. I think I finished it this fall because I wanted to wear it to Rhinebeck, and I did, but it was really warm in Rhinebeck. So I did take it off for a lot of the day, or at least it was warm the day I went on Sunday. But yeah, this was a great, well-written pattern. I think I said Patty Lyons was the designer. She does very good patterns. They're very well written. They're just not usually my style. So when she did this one, I loved it. I wanted to knit it right away. And I think I bought it as soon as it came out. So yeah, the other thing about this sweater is it is supposed to have buttons. I don't have buttons on it. I figured I can wear it without the buttons, and that's fine. I do have some toggle buttons that I'm probably going to use for it because matching this color was really difficult. Finding anything that really coordinated with it, that didn't detract from the cable work. So I think I just have these simple brown buttons that I'm going to use. But I've been wearing it every now and then anyway. It doesn't matter. The only thing I don't like about the sweater is that the shawl collar, which is not even sitting the right way right now, doesn't sit the right way for me. I think I missed like one row and back in the short rows on it. So eventually someday I might rip out the last bit of that, this edging and redo that, or even just make it bigger, because it just kind of pops up a lot, which is not my thing. I'm not Jersey Shore. So the only project that I did actually finish this week was this snowflake hat that I knit. I had designed this for my adult ed class, and they wanted to do some stranded color work, and we were doing leg warmers as the request of someone, but I also made it into a hat because I figured not everyone wants leg warmers. So this I knit and I finished it and I wore it out the other day. I haven't even actually seen it on me. All I needed to do was weave in the ends. close up the top and weave in the ends. So let's see. It's a little caught on my bobby pin back there, but I love it. It is knit in Long Island Yarn and Farms worsted weights. One is white picket fence and the other is purple twilight. They do have slightly different fiber contents. The purple has sari silk in it while the white doesn't. These are my original balls of yarn. And I only have this much left. So this hat got me a whopping 70 grams out of my stash. Even though I stashed this year. I got this yarn in January when I was at the farm one day. And let me know what you guys think, because I did want to put a pom-pom on it. And I was debating doing it I wanted it in the white. But I don't know if the white will detract from the color work. And also I think I'm going to be using this white for something else. So purple pom-pom, do we think? Does it work? I don't know. Let me know what you think, because I think every hat needs a pom-pom. And yeah, I did want it in the white, but I might just have to do it in the purple because I think I'm using the white for something else down the road. Okay, I have a bunch of whips that I have been working on this week. Some a lot, some not so much. Well, I guess over the past 2 weeks. First one is my half and half triangles wrap. It is a pattern by Pearl Soho. And it is part of the knit along. I forgot to mention this last week. It is part of the knit along with Madeline from the Mad About You podcast. And I think it's hashtag half wrap. No, hashtag 2023 half wrap along. I think I'm putting it down there. Everything will be linked somewhere in the show notes. This is where we're at. Nice and big now. I'm trying to find. Okay, sorry, wrong side. This is my stitch marker from where I was the last time I podcasted. So I knit all of this and I got to here, one of these two. I think it was this one. And I ran out of the black yarn. So I didn't run out, but I was thinking, oh, maybe I can finish with just 3 skeins instead of 4 because they're 50-gram skeins. And I thought maybe I won't have to use the other one. But I did. I did have to wind up joining another one. I was very close to the end. Didn't realize I also had to do 2 more rows along the side of all the stitches. But and then I found a spot that had a snag in it from my cats attacking the yarn. So I did have to join that last ball of yarn, knit that little section, and then knit all the way down, picking up my wraps and then back, something like that. I'm not positive on that, but you can look in the pattern if you want. And then I have the start of my lamb strings color. Oh, my black charcoaly color was the Fiber Company Canopy Fingering in, I think the color name was Obsidian. And it is a discontinued yarn. It is very, very old stash yarn. Hooray, stash yarn getting used. And then this color is Lamb Strings Tralala Sock, and the color is Holiday Spirits. Spirit or Spirits, I can't remember. And it was the full skein color for the 2021. Yes, 2021 Advent calendar. So I have this, I had one skein, and then my friend gave me her skein because she does not like pink. So my 2 skeins, let's see. I guess here, yeah, you can kind of see they're kind of different. Subtly so in, oh no, not so much there. They are definitely different colors. My one skein, I don't know which was which. I think my friend Anjanette's skein was lighter than mine. And it wasn't necessarily that it was lighter, but there was some areas that the pink was very, very light, almost white. And the purple speckles was like a big blob section as opposed to more sprinkled. And that's just what happens with hand-dyed yarns. No biggie. I kind of figured I would have to alternate skeins anyway. I was thinking maybe if they were really close, I could just alternate them close to where I was going to have to, go from one skein to another and just alternate for a few rows. But I'm going to be alternating the whole thing. So I knit only up to these little, they're short rows. So the rows are going to get longer as I go. I knit to here where this is where I joined in that second skein of yarn. And what I'm doing is I'm actually alternating along this line so that I don't get the strands coming up here, because some people are doing like an I-cord edging instead as they're knitting. So like it's integrated. So instead of knitting the first couple stitches, they might be slipping the first couple stitches. I didn't do that. I didn't think to do that. I've never knit this pattern before. I kind of thought about it and I was like, no, I don't want to think. I just want to knit the pattern as is and make it easy. So, of course, now I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit because I could have hidden this better in an I-cord edging, but it's actually working out really well, carrying it up this middle side here. I don't think it looks too bad on the right side. Looks pretty good. So it is what it is. I was working on this quite a little bit and then I had to put it aside. No particular reason, nothing wrong with the project, just other things have come up this week. The other thing that I worked on only a little bit was my Advent socks. So this is a little mini socks that I'm making for my sons for an Advent calendar so they can get a little treat in it or a prize in them every day for the month of December. And I am trying to get 2 of these Advent calendars done by the beginning of December because I have 2 kids and that way they don't fight like they did this past year. I started it this past year and I didn't finish it in time. So I'm finishing up one calendar and then I'm going to get working on the second calendar. So I think this is the sock I was working on last week. I put it on hold because I was knitting it while I was editing the last video. And I was up to the heel. So I didn't want to work on the heel. I was editing the video because I had to pay attention. So I cast on another one and I'm like right near the end of the ribbing. So that's all I worked on these. Not too much there. Okay, next project was, the yarn for that was Sleepy Fox Yarn Company, and it was the 2019 Advent calendar. So I'm using the mini skeins from that Advent calendar to make an Advent calendar for my kids. The next thing I worked on was I finished knitting my slippers. These were from a class that I did for my adult ed knitters. And I'm resizing it to have a couple of different sizes. So I really need to get back to working on this because they're waiting on me. But I sized it up for my feet. I knit both slippers and I just need to now seam them. So I finished the knitting. I just have to do the seaming and they'll be done. Hopefully they will be done before the next podcast. The yarn for these is a Lion Brand Pound of Love. I have been using this yarn for forever. It is going on and on and on and never ending. But I'm out of yarn. So I might actually, I have one slipper that I knit that was in this, like the sample size, the original pattern that we were using only came in one size. I might wind up ripping that out because I don't have enough yarn to make another slipper. So now I got a little bit of yarn left. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but these are done. So, well, not done, but done knitting them. I just have to sew them together and then I can wear them. And I'm really looking forward to wearing them and seeing how they wear. So the next project that I have that I worked on a very little bit, and I probably won't show this very often. This is the project I usually keep in my purse or my backpack when I'm out and about to work on. And this is a pair of socks that I'm knitting for my mom for Christmas. Sorry, Mom. Spoiler alert. But I cast these on last spring. This is the second sock. The first sock is not done though because I ran out of yarn near the toe and I don't know what I did. So I was going to join in another skein of yarn to finish it off in a different color. But I figured let me get this sock up to that point too. Like it's about the same length. Because what I do is I pull from the other, let's go back a second. The yarn I'm using is Patton's Crochet and it comes in 50-gram balls. So I buy 2 or 3 of them depending what's in stock. I buy these all in clearance at Michael's. Whenever they discontinue a color, I snatch up the clearance skeins. So when I do the heel, so that I don't interrupt the striping on the front, I just pull from the other skein. So I'm wondering if I pulled from, I don't know what I did. I might have pulled from like the wrong skein of yarn or something to do the heel. I'm not sure. Either way, we'll see what happens. I don't have that much left. I'm not going to finish the sock either with this one. I've also decided that this is just too tight of a fabric. I'm using size 1s, which is what I normally use, but Patton's Crochet is Patton's Croy is a little thicker. So from now on I'm going to use a size 1.5 instead. So it'll make the sock a little less dense and help the yarn stretch length a little bit. So that's those, but those will probably not make too many appearances. And these are the first project that are in a cute project bag, and this is from Casey's Pockets to Go. I have no idea if she is still making project bags. I bought this at Vogue Knitting Live years ago, and I love sugar skulls, and we are a Star Wars family, so I couldn't resist this. Okay, the last two projects that I have on the needles right now are kind of integrated. So I'm trying to finish this one because I need the needles from it, and it's very close to being done. This is just a brioche cowl that I have been working on for a very long time. I pick it up and I put it down and pick it up and put it down and work on it here or there. The yarn is Long Island Yarn and Farm worsted weight. I love this yarn. It is so soft. I wish you could feel it. This yarn is a few years old. I actually think Jax might have been 1 when I bought it. It might have been right before he turned 2. So the light blue was a colorway that was for the Long Island Yarn Crawl several years ago, and it was called oh my gosh, I just looked at it. What is it called? Coastal Life. Coastal Life, LIYF for Long Island Yarn and Farm. And I had bought that during the Yarn Crawl. And then I actually won the Yarn Crawl's prize that year, their grand prize. So if you go to all the shops, you get a stamp and you get entered to win prizes. The grand prize is $100 to every yarn shop that participated. So I got $100 to each of 10 stores. That was pretty awesome, let me tell you. But I spent my gift certificate to Long Island Yarn and Farm at the farm, obviously, and I bought the 2 skeins of the dark blue and 1 more skein of the light blue. And the dark blue is Celestial Sky. And I've been making this cowl for years now. I have pictures of Jax sitting in front of a tree in front of her house when I bought it. But I'm almost done. I just have a few more rows of brioche and then I'm going to do the edging. And this was just a brioche cowl that I had whipped up a couple years ago, and I was reknitting it in this yarn. I have a hat that I also knit to go with it, but I don't love the hat. It doesn't fit right. It's not like oversized enough to be a slouchy hat, but it's not fitted enough to be like a beanie. So I'm probably going to rip it out for like the millionth time because I just am not happy with how it comes out every time I knit it. And I've knit this hat like 3 or 4 times now. And I'm going to rip it out again. But that can wait because it's no rush. I need these needles, though, for the next project I'm going to talk to you about. That is a test knit that I am doing for my friend, Joan Forgione. She emailed that she was looking for testers for a hat with a very short time span. And I am already running out of time. And I haven't even started my hat. And that is because I am a loose knitter. I have to swatch for a test knit. I can't just jump into one because designers are looking for feedback and you have to be accurate when you're doing a test knit. So if you don't swatch, or if you don't at least check your gauge as you're going, you're not giving the designer accurate feedback. So because I'm not an on-gauge knitter. Like if I knew I always knit to the gauge that like the yarn calls for or patterns call for, I wouldn't swatch. I should swatch still anyway. But I probably wouldn't as much. Depends on what it is. This is a hat. I probably wouldn't have swatched for a hat. But this is a hat knit with twisted stitches, knit with worsted and mohair held together. And so I automatically was like, well, I'm going to swatch with a needle size down because I'm a loose knitter. I always have to go down a needle size at least for patterns. No big deal. And I started to cast on. I was like, wait a second. If I'm going to knit a swatch, I might as well just knit the baby sized hat. So I did. I knit the baby size hat. This is the baby size hat. And my gauge is way too tight. So I can't believe it. That never happens. I actually think I might have to go up a needle size from the pattern. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast on with the called for needles and start knitting it. And if I have to rip it out, I have to rip it out. The reason I wanted to just knit the baby hat is because I'm on limited yardage for one of my colors. So I thought if I have to rip out, like I don't want to have to rip out mohair. So and I'm not going to save a swatch from a hat. So I figured I'll just cast on the baby hat and knit it. And it's definitely, my gauge is way tighter than what she calls for. And this is blocked. And my row height is way taller than she called for. So I just hope I can do this thing in time. Anyway, this is the cute little hat. The adult one is similar. Hopefully it will be more accurately shaped. This looks like a foot, like the toe of a sock or something. But it's supposed to be a little like that cone shape that people are wearing right now that I think looks a little silly sometimes. But I don't know. On a baby, it might look cute. So I don't have a baby with a head that will fit into this to try it on. But I have a friend who has a baby and maybe she will want it for her son. But I love this fabric that I'm getting. So this is Cascade 220 Superwash Merino. I think that was it. And the color is number 35 teal. And the mohair that I'm using is Sheep Dipped Dye Works in Teal Time. I bought this on a trip to North Carolina to visit my mom and my stepfather when they don't live there anymore. They used to live in North Carolina in 2019. And I believe we went to the yarn shop on my birthday. And I bought this and another skein of another teal yarn from the same dyer. The women that own the shop, I don't know if it's one or both of them, I think they were the dyers for this yarn. I'm not positive now. I don't remember. But this mohair is very nice mohair. And it was a big skein. So it was like a 50 gram skein and 400 something yards, as opposed to a lot of them come in just small 25 gram skeins. So this was a good substantial amount of yardage. I'm not worried about running out of this. I'm not worried about running out of this because I have like 7 skeins of it. I bought it hoping to do a sweater, but it was just not quite enough to do most sweaters that I would knit in a solid yarn. So it's just been sitting in my stash. So at least I'm using it up. And like I said, this fabric is glorious. Oh, and when I knit my hat, where'd it go? When I knit my hat, I have this pom-pom from another yarn crawl several years ago from a Long Island yarn crawl. And how perfect is that color? I'm so excited to finally use this pom-pom. Jax had picked this out and was playing with it in the store. And I was like, well, he's playing with it, so I have to buy it, I guess. But, this is my color. I love the teals. I can't wait to wear this hat. I hope the pom-pom works on this. I might have to tweak it a little. I can't do that as a test knit though. So anyway, I need the needles from that brioche cowl to finish this thing. So that's everything I've been working on. I really need to get moving on the actual hat. I'm going to probably cast that on when I am done with all this and get working on it because I have to get that done very soon. Oh, so the name of this pattern actually is the Beach Nut Hat, and is by Joan Forgione of Paper Moon Knits, and this she thinks will be coming out on March 7th depending on when photography happens. So there's that. Keep an eye out for it, and it will definitely be a finished object in the next podcast, even though I haven't cast it on yet. It'll be that quick. You guys, don't let me go to the store that has yarn, because I bought more yarn that I really shouldn't be buying more yarn. I bought a whole bunch of yarn at Michael's last week. So I bought this Lion Brand Woolies just because it was on clearance. I use this a lot in my adult ed class. So for $2, I figured I'm going to grab it and put it in my little stash for that class. I like to have yarn for myself to use when I'm teaching, but also because sometimes people sign up last minute and they don't get the materials, or they don't get the materials list. So I like to have some on hand. I try to have a lot of extra needles too. Over the years, those have disappeared and not always gotten returned, but you know, it is what it is. But my class is starting on March 8th and I really need to get moving on that stuff. But I grabbed this, and this is just going to go in a bag with my adult ed stuff. The rest of the yarn that I bought was for a specific project. So a couple of years ago, I made a video about these little Peeps looking bunnies that I made for Easter, and I made them for the kids' Easter baskets. I made them as little stuffies, and I put little eyes and nose on them and a little shaker toy on the inside. and I made a video about it, and it was very popular. I made a video about how I made the pieces and sewed them flat, not stuffed, and made a garland out of them. So when I posted those videos, people kept asking in the comments for tutorials. How come it's not a tutorial? They wanted a tutorial on it. So last year those videos got a lot of views, and so this year I decided I'll make another video and I will ask the designer if I can make it into a tutorial. And the designer said yes. It doesn't seem like she's designing anymore. I had to search really hard to contact her. She has no contact information on her website. Her Ravelry is closed. She doesn't have an account there anymore. I happened to find her on Etsy. I messaged her there and she responded very quickly. So that whole situation came about because I had this light blue yarn with nothing to do with it. And I was like, oh, it's kind of like a little Peeps bunny. So I found the pattern to go with that. And then of course I had to go buy all the colors to go with it. But then I realized that blue didn't quite match a blue Peeps bunny. I went on with it anyway, but there was definitely a better blue I could have used. So now, this year, I went back to Michael's. I got pretty much all the same colors of yarn, but not of the blue. I got a different blue this year that's a little bit more accurate. And I walked around the store with some Peeps trying to find the right colors. So there were two ways I could have gone. I could have gone more traditional pastel Easter, but I feel like Peeps are a little bit more vibrant than that. And I went with the neons that I could find. So these are the colors I got. Oh, the yellow is like blowing out. Hold on, let's try it this way. There's too much yarn. So this is my little haul for my Peeps bunnies. So I got all of this. It is, these skeins are the Craft Smart Value. It's basically some really cheap brand, no-name brand that's equivalent. I would say it's very equivalent to Red Heart, because the blue that I had last year was Red Heart. And then this is Lion Brand Impeccable, which I have not loved this yarn before, but it had the best color. It is smaller than the other skeins too. Obviously, if I'm making little Peeps toys, I don't use a lot of yarn in this. So I'm actually going to try to make them held like double or even triple maybe, and make some really big stuffy ones. But I'll show you what I did with one of my leftovers from the last project, because I did have a lot of leftovers still. I made this really big baby blanket, but it's big for a baby blanket. See, the blue I used was more of a like pastel blue. But I made this to use up all my leftovers, and I loved this project because I love granny squares, but I loved crocheting these hexagons also. I love hexagon. Shape is my favorite shape. Hexagons are the bestigons, especially if you ask my child. He knows that. But I made this last, I don't know. It took me a while because I would just work on hexagons at night before I went to bed. And then last like spring or into the summer was when I finished this project. And I figured someone will have a baby that can use it eventually. So it's just been sitting around in my, in a storage bag, like a comforter set bag. So waiting for someone to gift it to, or someone who can use it. But I will probably make another one of these. Maybe I'll find something else to do. But we'll see. I actually have leftover hexagons because I just made hexagons till I ran out of yarn. I didn't have any placement ideas or anything until, I think until I was done, and I laid them all out on the floor to figure out where I wanted them all to go. So, but you can see these are, whoops, that didn't work. It's the same colors as I used last time. I literally just rebought them. So we'll see what happens with that. But I really do love this blanket. But so that was a lot of yarn that I really shouldn't be buying, but I did buy. And it's not even the nicest yarn. It's just your basic acrylic. Oh well. Okay, so stash down is going on and going strong. Not for me, because I am majorly failing right now. I have this month taken out of my stash 70 grams. That would be that hat that I knit. And brought into my stash 1,210 grams. Failure. I'm a failure at this. This is why I need people to do this with me, to keep me encouraged to go along. Although the podcast is kind of keeping me going along too, because I have to report it. So I have to make sure I go track everything. So I only just tracked my hat and this yarn in right before I started recording. My month so far for February is 1,140 grams stashed up. As for the group overall, so far our total is over 16,000 grams out of our stashes. Some of you guys are killing it. Me, not so much. I am hurting our numbers. I got to get some of this stuff, some of these projects finished, some of this stuff out, because this is, I'm not doing so well here. Not doing so well at all. Way to go, you guys who are doing great though. And speaking of, I almost forgot. Don't forget, this is your last call for the giveaway, because the next video that I record is going to be in March. So that is when I'm going to draw the winners. So make sure you enter the giveaway to win some Hedgehog Fibers yarns. And I found the stitch markers. Yay! I found the stitch markers that I made. I have like a stash of them. So I'm throwing these in because they match so nicely. So my love of the week is actually one of my loves of the week from last week. But I had to cut it out because Benji was so uncooperative, making noises and talking through the whole segment that it just wasn't even usable for that part. I gave up. So my love of the week this week is the Mad About You podcast on YouTube. Madeline has been podcasting for about 5 years now, I think she said recently. She just passed her 5-year anniversary, and I have been following since she started her podcast. So it has been great to see her life through that time. It has changed a lot. There have been a lot of ups and downs for her, but I love seeing her knitting and seeing her perspective of the world, because she lives in Australia and I live in the United States, and I am likely never going to get a chance to visit Australia. It would be great if I could, but it's cool to see how things are a little different there, and how some of, the seasons are different. Obviously, they are opposite of what we are here. So right now it is winter here, and she's celebrating the end of summer is kind of coming to an end, I think, for her. But she's talking about not being able to knit on something because it's too hot. And I'm like, oh, that's not here yet. She just got 2 cute little kittens who are terrorizing her yarn a little bit, I think. Not too much. I don't think that it's too much, but they're keeping her on her toes lately. And she just started a new career as a teacher. She was, I think, previously working in the military, so that's quite the change. But I love seeing what she's knitting. She has a different aesthetic than I do, so it's just nice to see something that's different than what I'm interested in knitting. And she is the one who is hosting the half and half wrap along. So I don't participate in knit-alongs too much because, especially right now, I have to have stash yarn for it. And I had stash yarn that I could make work for it. So I did jump in because it was a nice, simple-looking project, and I figured I can make it work. I don't know if I'll really use it much, but we'll see when I'm done with it. So I think you should all go check out her podcast and subscribe and like her videos and give her some loving over there, because I really enjoy her podcast, and I bet you will too. All right, our life over the past 2 weeks seems to be all sorts of upside down. First, last week, Jax was sick. Actually, 2 weeks ago, Jax was sick. So that kind of made things a little crazy. My mom came to visit for a surprise party that we had to go to last weekend. And that kind of throws a wrench in a lot of our normal routines too, with her visiting. Just interrupts regular normal life. Nothing bad, just sometimes things don't happen that we would normally do. Jax was sick, obviously, so that kind of threw a wrench in things too. And then this past week, Benji was sick, so it's just been a little chaotic here. We haven't got much of our schoolwork done at all in the past 2 weeks because it's just been nuts. So who's been crying? Who's been needy? Benji is still being very clingy. This past Friday, we went to a farm called Benner's Farm, and we did a field trip for learning how maple syrup is made. So it's called sugaring, and we got to see a whole bunch of things. I didn't take any pictures or video while we were there because Benji was just having a meltdown after a meltdown after a meltdown and temper tantrums and screaming and throwing himself on the floor. He wanted pancakes. Then we got pancakes. He wouldn't eat the pancakes. After 2 hours of him whining that he wanted the pancakes. Toddlers, they're great. My adult ed classes start soon. That's going to start on March 8th. That's going to be fun. I have a very big group this time, so it's going to be a little chaotic, I think, too. But we'll see. We'll make it work. But I'm looking forward to getting back to that. And in March, I also have the St. Jude's Knitting Challenge fundraiser and the Knit for Food Knit-a-thon. I have to keep all these things straight. I still haven't decided what I'm going to do for the knitting challenge for St. Jude's. It was just so chaotic the past 2 weeks that I didn't even get a chance to really think about it. But those are coming up, and that is what we've got going on. Nothing else too crazy that I can think of. Nothing too interesting. Hopefully it's nice and quiet and we can get some of our schoolwork done and just get back into the groove of things. But yeah, that's it. If you liked seeing this video, if you were interested in any of it, you can please like the video down below and subscribe. Every little bit of that helps. Leave some loving for us here. And if you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them down below. I love chatting with people down in the comment sections. And if you need any information on anything that I've talked about, you can find everything in the show notes, which is linked down below. Right down there. Right down there. And yeah, I will see you all in about 2 weeks. Don't forget to enter the giveaway. Bye.